Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my first digital product, which was my ebook. It was my influencer hustle kit. The reason why I want to talk about digital products today is because I was going through my analytics on my YouTube and I noticed that this video, which is like a digital products 101, like an introduction to it and like passive income and stuff like that, I realized that that was actually getting some traction and I was like, all right, maybe some people were interested in this topic. And I did also notice that I had a few comments on that video where people were just asking for more information about my first digital product, which was my ebook. So I thought, you know what, this is a sign. I'm going to listen to the analytics and I'm going to create another video on it. So that's what today's is. It's going to be more of a story time. Like I'm going to walk you through my entire process of creating and launching my ebook. It's not supposed to be like a, you know, me teaching you how to do it. It's more me sharing my experience and sharing the lessons that I've learned and the mistakes that I've made. I'm also going to tell you how much money I've made from my ebook to date. And yeah, so let's just get to it. Let's get to the good stuff. So before I get started, I should start by saying that I do have mixed feelings when it comes to my ebook. Like, for those of you who don't know, my ebook is my influencer hustle kit. It is a 46-page ebook, which basically provides a whole load of information about what it takes to become an influencer in today's day and age. So it has loads of info in there, from like pitching templates to contractual terms to look out for, all of that stuff, right? It is a very good product. So when I say I have mixed feelings, it's not about the product or the quality of the product, because it's so good. It's more about whether or not I think it fits with my entire like business and my product suite and I guess the direction that I'm going in. So I'll probably talk about that a bit more when I talk about learnings at the end of the video. But if you're someone watching this who's interested in becoming an influencer and you haven't purchased the kit yet, I'd recommend you do so, because I actually don't know how much longer I'm going to have it available for. I will of course put a link in the description. So let's start at the beginning, right? So let's start at the point where I actually decided that I was going to create an ebook and when I decided what the topic was going to be. So I actually created this ebook, like I wrote the whole thing over my Christmas holidays. So last December, what a fun way to spend Christmas holidays, but it was lockdown, so it wasn't like I could do anything else. So I actually wrote it last December, which means that I came up with the idea to create this ebook around November, December time last year. Now that was also the time when I started my channel. I released my first video on November the 15th. So I had probably about a month, which really isn't a long amount of time, of trialing different content strands on my YouTube channel and seeing which got traction. When I'm saying this out loud, I'm like, that was not enough time for me to make that decision, but it worked out, so it's okay. But I was literally doing this for maybe a month. I was talking about my boutiques that I owned at the time. I was talking about social media. I was talking about influencing. Basically all the side hustles that I had, I was talking about all of them, right? And I still talk about most of them. And I started to notice that my influencer stuff was getting traction. But not only that, I always thought that I had quite a lot of value to give in that space. And that's partly because I have an influencing account. I refer to myself as a creator, but also I worked in marketing and I had hired hundreds of influencers for my own brands, but also on behalf of massive international companies for years. So I actually had a lot of insider knowledge when it came to becoming an influencer or a content creator. And it was that knowledge that I utilized to create my own influencing account and have it start making money within months of me creating it. Okay, so because of all those things, I knew that I had value to share. And because I was testing out different content on my YouTube channel and also on my Instagram channel, and I was measuring the kind of traction I was getting, I also knew that, you know, there was an audience for this, there was a market. So when I say I was testing to see if there was a market for it, I was doing things like releasing YouTube videos specifically on influencing. I'll link to one up here. I was doing things like running different campaigns on my Instagram channel where I was basically saying to people like, do you want to be an influencer? You know, I will give you some feedback on your channel if you're interested, like drop me a message. And what that was allowing me to do was to not only validate the idea around my ebook, but also to gain some really interesting insights into what the key problems my audience were having when it came to becoming an influencer. So if there's anything that I would love for you to take from how I went about finding my topic for my ebook, it's that you need to test your market. So that's how I came up with the kind of broad concept of creating an ebook which was going to help influencers. I then went to the next stage, which was mapping out my content. Okay, so I'd validated my idea and I thought, all right, now it's time to actually figure out what I'm going to put in this ebook. So how I did that was by literally mind mapping everything that I knew. So I love a mind map, by the way. Whew. Every other page in my notebook is a mind map. So I basically just got my notebook out and just started writing everything I knew, every tactical strategy I used to make my influencing channel work. I done so much research. Don't let anyone tell you, you know, it needs to be all you and you can't be doing research to kind of, bolster the information you're providing in your ebook. Good ebooks are well researched. So do your research. There might be something that I think is a really great thing for me to include, and I think I know everything about it, like hashtags, for example. But I would still do my research to make sure that what I was including in my ebook was actually correct, and that the information I was giving was the best information I could possibly provide, right? So it's about mixing research and your own personal experience to come up with content that is truly valuable to your reader. I also want to take a second to say that that is truly where the value of an ebook comes from. So if you're thinking about creating an ebook about a topic that you don't actually have much experience in, and you're just thinking, I'm just going to research the topic and put it into one product, yes, you can completely do that. However, I would assume that that's not going to perform as well as an ebook where you're combining research, desktop research, but also your experience. Because in my opinion, it's your experience what makes that ebook valuable, right? That's the thing what makes it worth people's money. That's the thing what sets it apart to someone just doing their own research. It's your experience. So when you're trying to figure out what topic you're going to write your ebook on, I just really want you to think, what do I actually have personal experience in, and what topic can I provide the most value on? So once I'd gotten to the stage where I already knew what my ebook was going to be about and I mapped out all the content, I came up with a content plan basically, which allowed me to have specific days of the week where I was going to focus on different parts of the ebook. As I said, I wrote this all over the period of 2 weeks. Maybe a bit longer actually. I think I started it before Christmas and ended it after Christmas. So maybe it was more like a month, but a lot of the content I wrote like over the period of 2 weeks, where I literally just spent my entire day writing. So that was not the most fun Christmas I've ever had in my life, but that's basically how I did it. But the reason why I did it that way was because I was working full time and I still had other businesses. So I had to be really, really strict with how long I was going to allow myself to spend writing this content. And if I'm being honest, if I did it again, I would probably do it the same way, because what happens is that you get in a state of flow. You get so used to writing in a certain style and writing about a certain subjects that it becomes a lot easier for you to get back in the flow of writing every day, but also to produce really high quality work. So I actually really like the fact that I did it all over a short period of time, because I was just able to get really immersed into it. And I think that's a big reason why it ended up being really good quality. So I spent all my time working through it, got to the stage where I was like, okay, the draft's ready. I actually designed it and wrote it all myself. So I actually created it on PowerPoint. I'm such a PowerPoint nut, I'm obsessed with PowerPoint. That is basically, when you work in marketing, by the way, which is what I did for 8 years, that's basically your job. I lived in PowerPoint. Every day I was doing some form of pitch deck for someone. I would knock through 5 PowerPoints a week. I was like a whiz at it, which is why I chose PowerPoint to create my ebook, because I knew that I could create it in a way where it would actually look really good and looks like it was designed really well. If you're not someone who's I would actually class my understanding of PowerPoint as quite advanced, which is sad, but that's how proficient I am on that platform. If you're someone where you're I don't get how I can make something look that good on PowerPoint, then use Canva. I've made some of my freebies that I have now, I've used Canva for it. It can be a lot more creative, and there's a big chance you're more used to Canva anyway. So use Canva, they've got loads of templates, so that might be a good option. Or if you're super design savvy, then use something like the Adobe suite. Or if you're not design savvy at all, so you just don't have an eye for design, get someone else to do it. Because I honestly feel like how you present your information in your ebook is just as important as the actual information you're giving. So if you just think, this isn't for me, I can't design it, rather than let that put you off creating your ebook, just hire someone, honestly. Hire someone else to do it. Get a student to do it, because they'll probably do it for slightly less money. I still want you to pay them, but they'll probably do it for experience and for their portfolio. So just think about it, right? So I designed mine on PowerPoint. I basically just amended the settings so that it was an A4 size and the slides were portrait rather than landscapes. Totally something you can do in PowerPoint, by the way, don't worry. So yeah, I did that and I designed everything myself and I finished it. I literally just got to the end. I remember thinking this was way easier than I thought it'd be. I think because I'd mapped out all the content and I was just talking about stuff that I knew, it just flowed. It was quite an enjoyable experience, and yeah, it went really well. I'm not gonna lie to you, I really enjoyed it. And when I got to the end, I set about testing it. So by testing it, I just mean I wanted people to read it and just tell me, what honest opinion, what's it like? And I used a few people for that. So I got my other half, who literally, poor thing, has to read, hear everything that I'm doing. Has to watch all my videos before they go live. He's so immersed in the business, it's hilarious. He is my test subject. It's hilarious. So I got him to read it. I sent it to a few of my friends who are like budding influencers, so they were my exact target market. I sent it over to them, and then I also reached out to my email list. I'll come on to how I got an email list in a minute. I reached out to my email list and I said like, hey, anyone, I think I just picked a few people at random and was like, hey, I really need someone to read this and just to let me know what they think. I know that you're my target audience. I'll give you it for free if you give me some feedback. So I did that. I reached out to 3 people, and if anyone's going to use this tactic, right, get a contract. It's really frustrating because I knew I needed a contract, but I didn't have enough time. So I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to take the hit. And if someone doesn't actually give me feedback like they said they would, I'm just going to deal with it because it's my mistake because I didn't do a contract, right? And I think I messaged 3 or 4 people and only one person actually gave me feedback. So I had multiple conversations with these people. They were responding to me and saying like, yeah, I would love to help. Thank you so much. I'd love to have this for free. I would definitely provide you feedback by this day. And then they got the ebook and aired me. You're probably thinking, yeah, that's not surprising. But I don't know if I'm just naive. I was shocked. I was like, the nerve. I couldn't believe it. And maybe I really am just being naive, but I would never do that. I would never have a conversation with someone, promise that I was going to do something and then just run off with their stuff. I don't know. Anyway, so you learn from me and get a contract in place. But I did have one person give me feedback, which was useful. And then I collated the feedback, and I'm not going to lie, there wasn't actually any. Like, the only piece of feedback I got was from my other half, who was like, change the front cover because it looks a bit boring, which I did. And no one else gave me feedback. Like, there wasn't even a spelling mistake, which is wild because I'm not usually that good. Sometimes my spelling's not great. So I was quite surprised that there was nothing. Yeah, wild. Anyway, so I didn't get much feedback, and I basically just moved on to the next section where I was like, cool, it's good to go. I'm gonna set it up on my laptop and get my launch ready, which brings me on to the next step. So when it comes to launching and all that kind of stuff, first what I'll tell you is the technical side of how I actually made my ebook available. So I saved it as a PDF, which is really easy to do when you use PowerPoint. And then I have my website currently on Shopify. I'm currently migrating it. It was on Shopify because I've had several online stores in the past and I just know how to use Shopify like the back of my hand. So I knew I could use it and create something very quickly. Let's all remember that when I started this business, again, multiple other businesses, working full time. So I didn't have huge amounts of time to like teach myself how to use a different platform. So I was using Shopify, and Shopify has an app, which I'll link to in the description, where you could basically install it onto your website and upload digital products to it, which basically means that when someone purchases something from you, they will get a link to download your digital product. So they will get a link to download the PDF. Now, other people use sites like Etsy and stuff like that, which is really good for digital products. I wanted to set up my website, and I even knew how to use Shopify more than I know how to use Etsy. I do have my ebook on Etsy now, which does bring me in some sales from time to time, but yeah, predominantly Shopify, right? So I PDF'd it and I added it using that app, which worked perfectly. Well, it works perfectly most of the time, maybe like 2% of the time it doesn't work, but it mostly works really well for me. And let me just say, before we start talking about the launch, this is not going to be the kind of launch plan that you're potentially used to hearing. Like, it was almost like a reverse launch. And the reason why I say that is because I went into it thinking, I'm obviously going to launch the product, right? I'm going to make a splash about it, but I knew that the value from it wasn't really going to come in my launch. My strategy was more of an evergreen type launch. And what I mean by that is that my main objective of this ebook was for me to have something to include and reference to in my YouTube content. So my YouTube content is evergreen, and that basically just means that I can upload this video and it will potentially do well straight away, or YouTube's algorithm can pick it up in 3 years' time and start like pushing it like crazy. It basically just can continue to work for me for years and years and years to come without me really having to do much. And there's not many platforms which have that kind of benefit to it, but I knew YouTube had that. So for me, my idea was like, all right, well, actually what I'm going to do with this ebook is I'm going to seed it into my future content, and I'm going to mention it when I do my YouTube videos about influencing, and I'm going to link to it in the description. And what that means is that when my YouTube channel starts to pick up, because I was very new to YouTube at the time, when it starts to get some traction, I will be able to make money from my ebook because I've seeded it and implemented it into my content. Okay, so it was a long-term view. And what I find hilarious is that when I was prepping for this video, I was like, oh, I wonder how many subscribers did I have at the time? Like, how many followers did I have at the time? And I had like 260 subscribers at the time. And I was backing myself to the point where I was spending all this time creating an ebook and seeding it into my content, because in my head I was like, when my channel does well, this ebook's going to make me money. But I had 260 subscribers at the time. So how was I having so much confidence in myself that my channel was going to do well? It, like, honestly, I was such a believer, and still am a believer of like, all right, you want something, act like you've already got it, like speak it into existence. This is going to happen. You've got to believe it's going to happen. And I mean, clearly I really believed it at the time. Jesus. Luckily for me, things worked out, and my channel did actually pick up in April, and I gained like 30,000 subscribers in the space of 6 months, which meant that when I was gaining all these subscribers and I was getting all these views on all of these videos where I'd mentioned my hustle kit, I started to get a lot of sales from it, right? So that was basically how I went about launching. It wasn't your traditional launch as in like making a big splash over social media. It was far more of a long-term approach. So I feel like there might be a few people out there thinking, well, I don't know if I want to do my digital product yet because I don't have an audience. I didn't have an audience either, right? I just seeded it into my content and I let myself grow with the ebook. So please do not be discouraged. There's definitely other ways to go around it, right? On the flip side to the long-term approach, I did also try to make a bit of a splash on my channels just because, you know, it's a launch and I wanted to make a bit of money, right? So what I did was I gained an email list, and how I gained that email list was by running a campaign. So it was a paid campaign, which I don't usually do, but I ran a paid campaign where I was basically saying like, come and take this quiz to find out if you're ready to become an influencer. And as part of that quiz, people had to submit their email address to see their results. What I will tell you about this process is that even though I managed to get about 1,000 emails at the time, I've deleted almost all of those emails from my email list now because they were not high quality leads in the slightest. There weren't people who wanted to buy from me from any way, shape or form, and I didn't have the kind of campaign set up where I was going to nurture that relationship and get them to the point where they were ready to buy. I just didn't have the time or the resources to do all that. So what I ended up doing was accumulating these emails and then sending out some emails to them and then launching, and it just didn't land. And as I was doing it, I knew it wasn't going to land, but I thought I'm just going to do it anyway, and it just didn't land, and I ended up with all these email addresses which weren't really worth me having. So I've cleared out most of those now. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend going about it the way that I did. I also launched it on my Instagram account, which did get me a few sales because those people were a lot more warm to me and my offering, and therefore they were just a lot more likely to buy from me. I literally made like £300, I think, in the first month, and my target was 500, and I remember I was really annoyed about it. So I didn't make a lot of money from it at all. However, what I will tell you is that now to this point, I've made just over £6,500 from the ebook, and I launched it in Feb. So I actually think that's pretty decent considering that it's under £30. So that is quite a huge quantity of ebooks that I've actually sold. So again, this is a testament to the long game, right? I only made a couple £100 from it in my first month, but now I'm making like £1,000 a month from it. So long term sometimes work. You don't always need to make all the money at the beginning, guys. You've just got to have faith that you can make the money later on. Okay, so what did I learn from this process, and what do I think you can learn from this process? First thing, reverse launching works. I'm just gonna run with this name of reverse launching. I don't think it even fully makes sense, but I'm just gonna run with it. Reverse launching works. So creating a product when you don't have a huge audience is totally fine if you're gonna start seeding that product into your evergreen content. Examples of evergreen content is your YouTube content, or it's a podcast, or it's a blog that you're going to create that is really well optimized for search, so people can actually continue to find that web page or that blog for years and years to come. That kind of stuff works, okay? So please do not let the fact that you don't have a big audience now deter you from creating a digital product. The second thing that I learned is that nothing is ever truly passive. So I know that we will talk about digital products like they are this really great form of passive income, and don't get me wrong, it's the most passive form of income that I currently have. Like, I very rarely need to do anything when someone buys an ebook from me, which is incredible. However, it's not completely passive. I would say 10% of all the purchases that have been made of my ebook, I've had an email as a result of it. So someone saying, hey, this link doesn't work for me, or hey, my download, I didn't get the download link, can you send it to me? That happens all the time. And bearing in mind, I'm quite fortunate in that it doesn't take that much time for me to fix it. It's always the same problem. It's always like my download link didn't work, so it's not a big problem. But at the same time, it's still customer service. So it's still an email that you're going to get and have to respond to, so it's not completely passive. So please bear that in mind. Now, the next thing I want to say is, you know, whether or not I actually regret creating the ebook. So I don't regret it. I feel like I've helped a lot of people. I've provided a lot of information to people, which is great. I also really love the fact that I have an entry level product as part of my business. However, there are two sides to that, right? And the bad side to having this entry level product is that I feel like I'm doing a bit of a disservice to people who are actually ready to make more of an investment into their influencing career. Because what happens is that there might be someone out there who is really serious about improving their influencing career, like they're ready, right? And what happens is that they might find me on YouTube or find me on Instagram, they go on my website, and then they're trying to decide whether am I going to join one of her group programs and get coached by her for like a month, or should I just start with this ebook and see how I get on? Now, everyone knows that 9 times out of 10, you're going to think, all right, I'm just going to start with this ebook and just see how I get on. But what ends up happening is that you buy this ebook, you learn a bit from it, you make a bit of progress. You don't make the big transformational progress because realistically, you need like a course or like coaching for that, but you make a bit of progress. But then you just put the ebook down because it didn't cost you a lot of money. And a lot of the time, the amount of effort you put into something and applying what you've learned is directly linked to how much money you've invested in something. Like if you're only investing 30 quid, you're just going to read it for a bit and then put it down. If you're investing a few hundred, then you're really going to pay attention, or a few thousand or something, right? So you end up buying the ebook, you learn a bit, you make some progress, and then you put it down, and then that's it. Whereas you were potentially someone who I could have coached for a month, and I could have actually got you to the stage where you were regularly making money from brand partnerships, right? But I lost that opportunity, and you lost that opportunity because I had that ebook and it kind of distracted you from what you could have really gotten. So there's that side of it. But then there's also people who never would have invested in longer term coaching and they were never gonna do that. So therefore, at least I've got something that they can have, that they can get smaller results from. So I don't know, I'm always on the fence about it. Like, let me know in the comments what you think. I'm always like, oh, do I keep it? Do I not? I'm not sure. But that's one thing what I would say to you. Like if you're building up a coaching business, just think about in the long term how all your products are going to work together and whether actually there is a place for an ebook or not. You can always discontinue it, it's not a big deal, but it's just having that foresight that I don't think I necessarily had when I first created my ebook. So that is it for my kind of story time / tips and tricks of how to create your first digital product, how I created my first digital product, and how much money I made from it and all that good stuff. I really hope you found it useful. If there's any more information you want to learn specifically about digital products and ebooks, please comment below. I'm releasing my first course next week, so I'm going to have so many more learnings and so much content to share around that as well. I really hope you found this useful. If you did, I recommend checking out this video. It's all about my top side hustles for this year. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video.